first off, sorry I've got so much of these, like holding the camera, moving around, you seeing less of my face kind of things. If you guys like these better, let me know, throw that in the comments, or even let me know if you don't. I'm still trying to find a place to set my camera where it can film me when Alex isn't here, so I've mostly just been holding it, if you haven't noticed. Second, this is my wrap-up for the month of May. I've read 6 books this month, which is way less than I read in April, so no giant long videos this time, you guys. And according to Goodreads, I am up to 60 books out of my 100 I want to read this year, so that's awesome. I'm really excited about that. I just realized I didn't grab the 2 books that I actually have, so we'll just go over to the bookshelf. Most of these are library books, as usual. But I guess since my camera isn't on my computer, I can show you guys on the computer. The first book I read was A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Everybody been talking about that book, and I finally got it in at the library, and I went to read it. And I understand why everybody's talking about that book. It's absolutely amazing. I tore through that in less than a day. Absolutely love that book. It was one of those books where you're like, you get to the end and you're like, oh, this is gonna happen, and then it ends and you're like, oh, there's gonna be a sequel, but this is gonna happen. It was so good. I would totally recommend reading that. I love that book. Can't wait for the sequel to come out. The next book I read was Wicked by Gregory Maguire. Really liked this book. Took me a minute to get into because I was kind of in a reading slump after all I read last month. But once I did get into it, it was really good. It was really interesting. I haven't seen the musical yet. I just know all the songs. And from the songs, I know there are a few things that are different in the musical. But like I said, I haven't seen the actual musical yet. So I read that. I really liked it. I think you could just read that one, but there are other books to follow, and I do want to read those. I just decided to finish my library books I had out and try and read some of my stuff that I have here, because if you guys excuse the mess, I have all of this to read. I know it's kind of a mess because I have a pile. Oh, and that pile too. I know it's kind of a mess because I have quite a pile, and I've been using like the books over here by the bed as an extended table, like not a messy table, just a table to put snacks and stuff on. So yeah, so I've been trying to work on those, and I have been, and it's going really well. But with the exception of what you'll see with the last book I finished, no more library books for me for a while, unfortunately. So I do want to finish that series, was my point, but it'll be a little while before I do because I want to read some other things first. The next book I read is just called The Vikings by Neil Oliver. It's a nonfiction about the Vikings. It was really interesting. I've really been into like Norse stuff lately, if you guys haven't noticed, and this book is really interesting. It's, like I said, nonfiction. Alex is reading it right now and he's liking it. He's liking it more than I did, I think, because A, he's more into Norse stuff, and B, the first chapter too. I love history, don't get me wrong, but when I'm reading a book about the Vikings, I want to read about the Vikings. And it was background, which is interesting, but it wasn't what I wanted to read at the time. And the other thing about the book is I wanted to read like more of the day-to-day customs and everything, but this gave more of a like, so then we found this body that was buried, and here's everything we learned from that. And then we found these cairns, and that's everything we learned from that. And here's all this background and what happened after and all that. I did learn a lot of cool stuff, and this was a good book, don't get me wrong. It just wasn't what I was looking for when I got it from the library. It was a really good book, and if you're interested in the Vikings or Norse anything, I would definitely recommend reading this. If you don't know a lot about the Vikings, would be, and you can sit through a nonfiction book, this would be a good book to read to give you a good overview and background, and then you can read more detailed stuff later. It was really good. The next book I read is called The Fallen Angels by Bernard Cornwell. I really hope that's in frame. There we go. The Fallen Angels by Bernard Cornwell and Susanna Kells. This book, this author, Bernard Cornwell, was recommended to me by a friend a couple of years ago, and so we went to the bookstore and picked up this book. He recommended this one for me to read, and I've been meaning to read it since I got it, and it's been, oh my, like 2 years, 2.5 years. It's been a while. I really like this. It's a historical fiction about the time of the French Revolution. Now, my history in that area is not great. But if I am correct, and please don't quote me on this, if I'm correct, this is after Les Mis, I think. It should be. It should be after Les Mis. I don't think my history is that bad. It was really good. I liked it. Initially when I started reading it, I was going to have Alex read it, and then I got into it more, and I'm like, no, this isn't what he'll like, because as much as I like this book, as good as it shows of the history and everything, and it does give you that history, and I read a lot of nonfiction, so just saying it is nonfiction isn't the only thing. It's nonfiction, it's got a storyline, it's historical, not nonfiction, it is fiction, sorry, I'm losing my words, it's midnight. It is fiction, and it's got a storyline. It is historical fiction, and it gives you a good idea of the history and everything, but a large portion, not all of it, but a large part of the storyline involves romance type stuff, romantic stuff, and I really like that, but if you take that away from the book, I don't think there's enough there for you to read if you aren't interested in the romantic aspect. That being said, if you're either okay with that or you are interested in it, this is definitely a good book. I would totally recommend this. I found out after I read it that it is the second book in the Crowning Mercy series, so I do plan on reading those when I am off of my library ban. The next one I read was just a Nancy Drew. It's number 50, The Double Jinx Mystery by Carolyn Keene. Here, now I know you can see it. Ha. I don't know where this came from. It was in my pile, so I read it. Of course, it's Nancy Drew, so it's a series, and eventually, of course, I want to read all of them, but this is just the one I found. This was really good. Nancy Drew is always good. I mean, I do read stuff that's below my age level, but that doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. I enjoyed this for what it was. It was a Nancy Drew book. There's not much more to say about it than it was a Nancy Drew book, and it was good. And then the last book I read this month is American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I really hope I'm saying his last name right. I don't know if it's Gaiman or Gaiman. I'm going to say Gaiman. And that book, oh my gosh, you have to read that book. It's, if A Darker Shade of Magic blew me away, this just, like, took me to Kansas, I guess you could say. This book is absolutely amazing. I kind of broke my library ban and ordered the next book, but it's only a duology, so I'm just going to read it and be done, and then no more library books until I get some more of this stuff read, because it's taking up my entire side of the bedroom. All my book stack, TBR stuff. But anyway, this book, absolutely amazing. Book in general, you'll love it, read it. You'll love it even more if you like mythology, and you'll love it even more if you like Norse mythology. So definitely recommend reading that. I actually loved it so much I did a book review on it, so I'll put that link down in the comments below. Not the comments. What, am I losing my mind? Description box. In the description box, I will put the link to that review down there. And that's all the books I read this month. Only 6 books, which is a lot less than the 24 I read last month. I don't know what was up with me last month. I read a lot of books last month. This is more normal. There's 6 books. This is more normal. So yeah, that's the end of this review. I will see you guys later. Bye!